Hello, Cancer. Welcome to Dove and Serpent Tarot. My name is Paul. If Cancer is your sun, moon, or rising sign, this is your tarot card reading. Remember to hit the like button, leave a comment, consider subscribing to the channel, especially if this reading resonates with you. If there is anything you would like me to pray over or meditate upon or send positive energy toward, please let me know. Now, this is going to be a general reading, so try to be open and receptive to whatever may come through during our time together. I am merely the messenger. And I ask you to connect directly with each of these cards and use your own intuition to take you beyond the details that I might provide. And remember, Cancer, that the most important part of any tarot reading is you. And we start with a Five of Cups. Now, Five of Cups is usually a card of sadness, sorrow, negative emotions, disappointment, that sort of thing, right? I feel like you've had your fair share of those things, but I feel like you're somebody who is working toward not identifying so much with all of these emotions. Emotions are like these waves that come upon us and they get us wet for a while, but then they kind of wash away, we dry off, we're okay, right? I think you're somebody who is, at heart, you're an optimist. And I feel like it's because you've had so many challenges in life that really there's no other way to be. I've got to be an optimist, otherwise I'm in trouble, you know? So I feel like you, in typical kind of Cancer fashion, I think you're very sensitive to the emotions coming in from outside, okay? But I don't feel that you're shying away from those. I think when you feel upset, you feel upset. And that's just the way it's going to be, right? But you get over it relatively quickly, and I feel like that's something that you've been working on more and more lately. I feel like you're somebody who really does empathize with others. I feel like you know what other people are going through, and you're able to relate in a way that is authentic and that is genuine, right? I feel like right now you're experiencing a little bit of uneasiness inside, and maybe we're not so sure where that's coming from. This is one of those emotional waves that come upon us, and maybe this one's taking a little bit longer to kind of wash away, and it feels like it's kind of a, it almost feels like nostalgia to me, that we're longing for some moment in the past where things were perfect, you know? We're trying to get back to the paradise, get back to the Garden of Eden, you know? We got to find out what's going on with that. It feels like maybe we're looking for purpose. We're looking for the next direction, right? So this isn't just the typical kind of, man, I'm having a bad day, I'm in a bad mood. This is something that feels like it's a little bit deeper. So let's explore that, okay? Let's see what's coming your way with some more cards here. Move that candle out of the way. Oh, look at that. This is the Eon card, Judgment card, Rebirth, Reawakening. This isn't a doorway to the past, right? So we may be longing for a return to a more pure state, a more happy time, a paradise, a Garden of Eden, something like that. But this is a doorway to the future, okay? So we've got to do some more cards here, because I want to see what's kind of what's in the past position for you, right? What are we kind of moving away from? Why is it that we feel this way now? Because I feel that there is really there's a significant change coming in your life. This feels like this is a definite, it's almost like a night and a day shift. This is that portal to the future, and this is saying, let's not look at the past, let's close the door on the past, and let's open up our heart and our mind and our soul to the coming adventure in the future, right? That's happening now, and this doorway is happening right now. And I feel like this maybe is part of the obstacle for you, is to make that decision, because the Eon card is always about a decision. And it's really, it's the decision not to be stuck in what we wish we could go back to in the past, but to make that decision to be reborn into the future, right? To be reborn right here, right now in the present, and move into the future with this kind of renewed energy. So let's see what other cards we have. This is a very good card, and we'll return to it. Underneath the surface, ooh, a Ten of Pentacles. That's very nice. You're somebody who has never had a problem earning money, right? Somehow, I don't think you're like extravagantly wealthy or anything, but I feel like you've always been pretty good at making ends meet. You know, you've been pretty good at kind of, making a dollar out of 15 cents. And I think that there's always some sort of, it almost feels like a divine hand that's involved in that with you, right? For instance, that you would, something would happen and you lost a job or something, or you got laid off or whatever it was. But because of that event, let's say when you were kind of walking miserably out of the company and you had your box of stuff in your hands, like you bumped into somebody who just happened to be offering an even better job, right? So it's kind of like one calamity leads into a really prosperous time. And I feel like your life has kind of been in cycles like that, where it's just been kind of a bad thing, maybe a disaster, a calamity, some sort of unfortunate event that would lead to really better fortune, right? So it's kind of like, it's weird, right? It feels a little bit uncanny. And I think that you've recognized that there's been some sort of a divine hand in your life that's kind of showing you that through these difficult times in your life, you're being led to greater and greater things, that we have to go through the struggle in order to reach the strength, right? So the Ten of Pentacles to me is telling me that you really do understand what is of value to you, have a strong conception of wealth. It's not just financial. The financial part of wealth is just that little coin at the bottom. What are all the rest of those coins doing there, right? What are those for you? And this is underneath the surface in the reading, okay? This is down beneath everything else. This is something that's within you. I feel like we have to reconnect with that sometimes, okay? So this might be one of those times for you where it would do you, it would serve you well to reconnect with what you really find valuable in your life, okay? And to know that we can find this value in the present and in the future. We cannot find it in the past, although we can use the past as a kind of a reminder or as a way to tap into this energy again. Let's see what the card is in the past position. Hanged Man. Maybe we should move some of these cards. I'm trying to find a place for everything, but my desk is getting a little full. There we go. The Hanged Man in the past position. All right. And so maybe this was kind of a return to a time where we felt as if our material success wasn't as important as our, let's say, spiritual success, right? In other words, we were happier with earning less if it meant that we were gaining more in different areas of our lives, right? It's kind of the artist that lives on, like soup and ramen noodles or something, right? Really a very frugal existence in order to devote so much more time to the art, right? Whatever it is. So I feel like you went through a period of that where it's almost a renunciation, but not really. And maybe we could call it that if we want, but I think it was a bit of a rejection of materialism. And I think it was a focus on those things that meant more to you. And even right now, I feel like you kind of want to go back to that, where it's just life was simpler, where there was really no burden of life, because it was just, basic needs are met, and then the rest of my time I devote to, what your true path is or what your true aspirations are, which maybe we'll see in a moment. I also feel like you went through a large, maybe chunk of time that was kind of a depression, right? I feel like you were in a particular state, but it wasn't like useless. It wasn't for no reason. It wasn't. It had a point to it. I think it allowed you to really make a lot of progress with your internal spiritual work, to really get an idea of who you were, who you are, but who you were at the time, and kind of what your path was. And I think that this is the reason now why we've got this Five of Cups, where we have these fluctuating emotions and you're okay with it. You know how to handle those, you know how to deal with those. And I think we allow those, if this is a bad mood, a bad day, if this is really a negativity or an anger or something like that, I feel like you let it pass very quickly nowadays. Whereas before, you spent a lot of time lingering in those states. And it may at the time been quite difficult and painful, but I think it really has taught you how to navigate those waters, so to speak, right? the Hanged Man to me is sometimes about a shifting of our perspective, a shifting of our priorities. Right? We're kind of looking at things maybe from the bottom up, whereas like maybe we're looking things from the top down, right? And so what I mean is that we feel like our physical life is the basis for the spiritual life, rather than the spiritual life being the basis for the physical life. So I feel like in your life you've been torn between, do I pour myself into my earthly life, and concentrate on all these kind of so-called material things. All matter is merely energy condensed. So when we say material things, you know what I mean. It's kind of the earthly realm. Do we pour all of our energy into that, or do we kind of shift it around the other way and we realize that our spiritual life has to come first, and that's going to then kind of trickle down and kind of inspire everything else, right? So interesting card. Interesting that you have the Hanged Man here behind you. I think you've made a lot of sacrifices in your life. I feel like you went through a major medical ordeal in your past, maybe when you were a kid. Something that was quite serious. I think it feels like everybody was worried about you, but you were okay. But it was like this really intense experience that now you hold with you, right? And it goes into part of who you are. But let's see what's on the top. What is the aspiration that we're... Oh, the Tower. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, we could be dealing with quite a fiery emotion here. We see the Five of Cups and we think it maybe is sadness or depression or this kind of, this uneasiness or this, a dissatisfied kind of feeling or an unfulfilled feeling. But really that could manifest as really major change. It really could manifest as anger or rage, kind of, outbursts of emotion, which Cancer, it is something that we're prone to, I think. But with the Tower here, I feel like what you're really aspiring to is that spiritual experience. You want that kind of shockwave of spiritual energy that's going to change the world for you. We want that sudden Kundalini awakening. We want that sudden activation of all the chakras, right? And because I feel like that is something that is really undeniable for you. That is something that really is going to feel it, because I think you're somewhat of a skeptic. I think you, we think of somebody like who, you don't believe in ghosts or you don't believe in tarot readings or something. I don't feel that you're a disbeliever. I feel like you're a skeptic. You're a not yet convinced person of anything really in life. I think you like to experience things for yourself before you say, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say that's true for me, at least for now. So I think that you've had a lot of experiences like that, where you've experienced something firsthand, and that convinces you of its kind of authenticity. And I feel like that's kind of, you need something that is undeniable. I watch some of these ghost hunting shows, my wife laughs at me, but Zach Baggins, he's a pretty cool dude. But I feel like the evidence is so tenuous and it's so vague and it's not convincing. It may be kind of spooky and it may get you thinking, oh gosh, I wonder, right? But it's not convincing evidence. It's not enough that's going, for you especially, it's not enough that's going to say, yep, it's undeniable. There's no doubt in my mind right now, for now at least, that this is true and this is real. And, you're somebody, I almost feel like you are a ghost hunter in a way. Because I feel like you want to know what is really underneath the surface of reality. And I feel like you're not just going to take somebody's word for it. You're going to want to experience it yourself. And that's kind of like the eye opening in the Tower there, right? So that is the full opening of our third eye, the full spiritual activation. I feel like this is what you're after in life, And then we see that it's counterpoised with the Ten of Pentacles. So it's, do we have to choose between a material life and is it kind of a top-down thing or a bottom-up thing? Do we have to choose between the physical material success and the kind of spiritual, the revelation of the tower energy? I don't think so. I think that Spirit's showing us kind of a middle way. So we don't need to turn the hanged man upside down. Maybe we just turn it sideways, right? But here we have the baptism by water and the baptism by fire. And so I feel as if you've already gone through this baptism of water with that intense period of, what maybe we could call a depression or something like that, and with this the serious medical thing that I believe you went through as a kid, maybe a young adult, I'm not sure. That to me is kind of that baptism by water, and then we have this baptism by fire that we're really kind of at the threshold of right now. Okay, but let's see what's coming in the future position. Oh, well, interesting here. We've got the Knight of Pentacles, which happens to be a Capricorn energy. And I always say this for you, Cancer, that you're starting to recognize your Capricorn nature, which is your opposite sign. It's kind of like your unconscious ego, your shadow self, or your alter ego is the Capricorn energy. And the Knight of Pentacles is one of the Capricorn power cards. So I feel like this is a moment where I feel like we're really shifting out of this water energy into this, really fire energy. And I think that, I think that it's kind of a life-changing decision that you're on now, that you're involved with, especially when we look at things this way, that we're kind of doing the purification and the consecration, and then here we are moving forward, looking forward, thinking long-term. And I feel like these energies are fueling you. And it's very interesting that we have fire, right, with the tower. It's Mars energy. It's a fiery card. And then, of course, we have the Ten of Pentacles, which is very earthy, right? The tens are the densest of the suit. So we have intense fire and intense earth. Well, what is Capricorn but fire and earth? Okay, so I feel like it's part of your kind of physical earthly ambition and your intense just this mad passion for spiritual experience, for revelation, for personal spiritual revelation that is fueling you forward. So I feel like you have a foot in both worlds right now, And I feel like you are making kind of a spiritual progress and an earthly progress at the same time by activating what we're kind of calling the Capricorn energy here, which is this driving force, which is this passion for life, this ambition. It's kind of the ability for you to have your intentions, have an intentionality about things, to take the initiative, to be the one to decide things, right? To be the one to say, this is the kind of life I want, and this is where I'm going. It's kind of, we can look at it like this, that maybe with the Hanged Man, it's like, what do we want for dinner? I don't know, this or that. But then we move into this new energy, and you know exactly what you want, right? And there's just this new energy about you, and I feel like it's very powerful. It's a very empowered, very confident, very assertive energy. And I think you've got your eyes on long-term goals more than usual. And that's part of what I think the Five of Cups is doing here, is saying that, something doesn't quite feel right in the present. Maybe part of the situation here is that we've got to let go of something from the past here. And this might be really an attachment to that, still that water energy, right, to this past phase of things. We could look at, the lifetime is the first 20 years, the current 20 years, and then, a third batch of 20 years. Not that this reading is supposed to be, 60 years long. But it kind of feels that we are kind of saying goodbye to that previous version of ourselves, right? And there's that uneasiness now because it's almost like, I'm trying to describe that feeling. It's kind of like a feeling when you're in a place, but you should have left a long time ago, and maybe when we're kids and, we know we were supposed to be home by sunset, and here it is like, it's getting really, really dark now, but we're still at our friend's house, and we just kind of have that feeling like, I know I need to get moving. I know I need to get out of here, and you know. I feel that's kind of what that 5, it's a queasiness. It's just this little bit of, I don't know what it is. But it's moving us into this very ambitious, very long-term goal-oriented Capricorn energy. Now let's select the mystery card, bonus card, confirmation card. This is a random card. This is from the Smith-Waite Tarot, and it's the factor infinite and unknown. And we're just going to set it down over here. We're going to put our very own Kelly Kapoor right on top. We're not going to look at that card until the very end, but it will tie everything together, and it will give us the confirmation that we need. If you have a prediction for that card, put it in the comments. All right. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It's totally free. It doesn't cost anything. We're going to do the general energy here with the Path of the Serpent. First card, 9 of Swords. Sometimes the 9 of Swords is really the recognition of what we've been clinging to, what we've been hanging on to, right? Reference to the hanged man here. So I wonder if there is still this attachment to something from the past. I don't know if this was, you know, we're talking about there's this, you know, chunk of time where there's this kind of, you know, low point, right? It's kind of a valley for you. Maybe it's been a few years or something. And I wonder if there's still an attachment to that. I wonder if there's some resentment there. I wonder if somebody really hurt you, somebody really wronged you, okay? And I feel like the 9 of Swords here, as your general energy, is encouraging us. Because, see, this is Mars in Gemini. So it's encouraging us to very definitively break away from that energy, to not let that affect. And that doesn't mean we're going to forget about it. Doesn't mean we have to forgive everybody. It doesn't mean that it's no longer going to affect me. But it means that I'm consciously severing the connection with that energy. So it really is that we're going from water now to fire. And this is fire, and this is fire, and this is Mars in Gemini here. So it really is taking this tower energy, and maybe the tower is really what we're trying to do, is make that really just clean break from the past, from whatever this kind of hanged man period was for you. Okay? Even if it was just kind of a longer period of time, a general energy of the past. Now we have to intentionally walk through that doorway. Like I said, this is closing the door on the past to be ready for the future, to take that new adventure into the future, right? So it's interesting that we've got the 9 of Swords here as your general energy, because I think it is kind of a card of that painful truth, that recognition that in order to move into the next phase of our life, we have to kind of be done with the past phase, you know, the previous phase. We can't be in past and future at the same time, so to speak. But you can be in both worlds at the same time, which is what we're trying to do moving forward. But what's in the environment? Well, see, there's a Princess of Swords. So we take this Swords energy, this air energy, and then we think, okay, I recognize what needs to be done, but in practice, it's very difficult. Okay, it's with the Princess of Swords, it's very hard, very difficult to kind of let go of things that have had such a grip on us for a long time. So the princess is trying and kind of sort of failing a lot, and that's okay. It's really just a matter of the continued effort, okay? And we kind of, we have to observe the thoughts when we start, and thoughts and feelings too. When we start to kind of be gravitated back toward that past energy, we have to recognize that. And the Princess of Swords, or the Page of Swords, has to be kind of on guard against those thoughts, has to be very vigilant in observing ourselves. Okay? But this is the card in the environment, right? So it's about observing ourselves through our interactions with the world. Okay, through those decision-making, moments, through the way we talk to people, through the way we allow the energy of other people to really affect us and move us. With this fire energy, it's very interesting because I was talking to my daughter this morning, and we were talking about fire, and I said, fire is that element that really can destroy and transform anything. Everything is going to be, can be, we use the word hurt. Everything can be hurt by fire. right? And we were saying, well, your toys can be melted by fire, right? And things can be completely transformed and destroyed and gone, right, by fire. And she said, well, what about the sky? My jaw dropped. I didn't know how to respond. I said, you know what, you're right. And it made total sense to me, because that's the sky is, well, it's a noun, right? It's a concrete object. You can say, there's the sky. We can sort of touch it, I guess, if we want, but it's something that we can see and we can experience as being, a noun. But it's still sort of intangible. And it's still sort of this ethereal, it's almost a continuum. So it's kind of like, it's real, but it's also not real. It's manifested and it's material and it's earthy, but it's heaven. It's spiritual energy, right? It's the sky, it's outer space. It is that kind of symbolic of that divine realm, right? And I think it really just, it kind of solidified that in me, like the idea of fire and spirit really being the same kind of energy, And anyway, I don't know what the point of this was, but except to say really that this movement here, this might feel like a disruptive process, right? It might feel, and that's kind of why it's so difficult, is because it feels as if we are losing something. It feels as if this going through this fiery doorway is burning everything off. Like I said, fire will destroy, or fire will melt everything, right? Of course, except for sky, except for the divine energy, except for our spirit, our soul, right? Except for those things that are not material things, right? Fire can't burn an idea, you know what I mean? So it really shows the dual nature of fire. Fire is both a material thing that can affect the material realm, but it's also a spiritual thing that can take the form of inspiration, of enthusiasm. So going through this doorway feels like we are shedding ourselves, that we are losing our material form, and we're emerging on the other side as this pure spirit, right? And it's quite interesting that in the future position, of course, we have another earth card, right? So it's kind of like we are being taken apart and put back together. Anyway, sorry for that little tangent. The Princess of Swords, we need to observe ourselves, especially through the way we interact with the world and through our projections onto the world. Okay, but what's the obstacle here? That idea of identity. Maybe we're so identified with what happened in the past to us, or with this period of time in our lives, or this previous version of ourselves, or maybe there is this nostalgia for this time where we just kind of were living this simple life, and we felt like we were on a more spiritual path because we were living meagerly and simply and starving artist kind of vibe. That now we're shedding that skin. Who are we? What is our identity? The Three of Wands here, right? We're looking for that identity. And if our entire being dissolves, what is our identity? Who are we, right? Who are we and why are we here? We go back to those fundamental questions. And, looking at it metaphysically, we are just kind of pure spirit. We're pure energy. We're pure fire, right? The subtle fire. So I feel that this is really, at the core of it, this is a question of your identity. And when we look at a tower event, it really is through these kinds of tower moments, these big abrupt changes in life, that we really get a glimpse of what's underneath all of this material stuff. We think of this tower crumbling down, what's left standing? Well, pure spirit, right? The pure, really what's inside the tower is the Ace of Wands. Now this is a Three of Wands because it's us trying to understand the unity of the One through its appearance as a Trinity. Okay? So we're looking at our intentions, we're looking at our heart and our mind, we're looking at our thoughts and our feelings, right? The way we interact with the world, and what our impulses are, what our fire energy is kind of pushing us toward. Yeah. And this, as well as what the Knight of Pentacles is looking at. What is the future goal? Who am I in the future? What am I? Where am I? Right? What am I doing? Well, we kind of have to know ourselves in the moment. And let's see what this last card is. We've got the Hermit energy. So the Hermit energy is, to me, it feels like an emergence rather than a withdrawing, because I feel like this was the kind of more of the withdrawn period. Going through this fiery doorway leading to this increase of, a blending together of both the personal spiritual revelation and our earthly ambitions, right? We have a foot in both worlds, heaven and earth. I feel like this is us recognizing the unconscious driving forces within us, recognizing that identity beneath the surface of everything, and with that light, then we are emerging into our life. Okay? And I think that this is kind of an abrupt change. This is something that we kind of have this, again, we have this desire for really immediate evidence of something. Right? If there are ghosts here, make yourselves known right now, that sort of thing. We want that evidence that's going to give us no doubt, right? And then I think having that experience is really transformative. And it really is us kind of shedding this skin. And we think of the hermit as kind of removing the cloak and emerging as this pure being of light, right? No longer concealed, no longer hidden away. And so I feel like that's kind of what you're aspiring to, is that really intense spiritual experience, right? In whatever form it may take. And the analogy I'm using, of course, is, well, we want to believe in the supernatural, but we're suspending our judgment until we get that experience, until we get that tower moment that is going to open our eyes and make us a believer, right? And I think that's what's going on for you right now. Let's look at the mystery card. I kind of want to see a star card here, because I want to feel that this is really providing us with a sense of identity, that we can answer those questions. Who am I and why am I here? I feel like this is a life-changing period of time for you. I think this is a transition from this previous state, right, this hanged man state, to now this, now this kind of, it's a more integrated whole being, right? Because it's your alter ego, your kind of unconscious being, as well as your conscious mind. I either want to see some Cancer energy here, maybe the Chariot or the Knight of Cups, or something circular, something like a Four of Wands or the Sun card or the Wheel of Fortune, right? Something to show the wholeness that we're achieving. Let's see what we have. Oh, that's the world. That's the wholeness. Why didn't I think of that? That's the wholeness, right? That is being this. There is nothing hidden, and we realize that we have this identity. That if we're wondering, who am I? What's my identity as an individual? You are everything. You are identified with the macrocosm, right? So this is really a true spiritual identity, where you are equal to the whole of the universe, right? That you are really a true reflection of the divine universe. And this is a card of completion. So I feel like this is almost a very advanced, I don't want to say the final stage, but a very advanced stage on your spiritual journey. And this is that kind of really that whole, it's a return to wholeness, right? It's a full integration, or I don't want to say individuation, but it is kind of like that. But the next step beyond individuation, of course, is identification with the whole, right? It's kind of a de-individuation. So this is really tremendous. I think you're going through a really important time in your life right now. It's important that we understand what this energy was from the past, which seems kind of vague to me. I feel like there's a few different components there. We've got to be aware of how it's still affecting us and how we're holding on to it. And then that might be the last part of our identity, or what we kind of have thought of as our identity. We've got to let that go, right? In order to find our identity, we have to let go of this past experience that I think we are identifying with. Does that make sense? Anyway, we're going to do an extended reading. If you want to stick around, there is a link up top. There's one down below. New readings for Cancer every Tuesday and Friday, 6 a.m. Chicago time. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It is totally free. It doesn't cost anything. And leave a comment. Let me know where in the world you're watching from, especially if you're a new viewer. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you. I want you to know that you're the most important part of Dove and Serpent Tarot. I thank you and I love you, and we're all in this together.